Listen, say what you want. Yeah, it was harsh conditions. It was brutal. I know it's insane. We can't sit here and act like this movie wasn't goated. So was it worth it? Wait. Did you just click on my video? That's dope. God bless. I hope you're having a good day. Let's get to the video. Roll it! When is this movie coming out? The dark truth behind the Spider-Verse delays. Now, y'all have watched Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and they left us with a really big cliffhanger. It hurts my soul. Like, if I genuinely had to choose between GTA 6 dropping this year and the Spider-Verse dropping this year, I'm choosing GTA 6. Like, my nigga, y'all thought I was gonna pick Spider-Verse? Please.
March 29th, 2024.
No, but I still want this movie to come out though. Like this deal, bro. This movie. Oh my goodness, man. Damn.
The date Spider-Man Beyond.
I know it's a lot of work. I know it's like a shit ton of work they gotta do.
The Spider-Verse was.
And then the actor Shamik been shooting his shot at what's his name, but she got a dude. I don't think he knew that. I don't know, man. I don't know, bro.
It's been nearly a full year since then, and not only has the movie not been released, Sony hasn't even announced a release year. To me, this all seemed incredibly weird, and the more I dug, the more bizarre it got.
Like, out of all the movies Sony could have messed up with, they could have messed up on Craven, they could have messed up on Venom, they could have messed up on Morbius. These niggas want to mess up on one of the best movies. Like, they put out would have been a clean trilogy. All the movies would have. Come on, man.
The movie's been plagued by delays, drama, and a production nightmare that Sony doesn't want you to know about. But the truth? It's even worse than you think. I've gone and dug up all the information so we can talk about how we got here and what this all means for not only Sony and the franchise, but the rest of the industry too. Let's rewind all the way back to the beginning. Into the Spider-Verse. This was Sony's big gamble, a film they hoped would redefine their animation studio's reputation after years of atrocious movies.
And it did.
No one could have predicted just how massive a success it would be though. Well, almost no one. Even during production, there were signs that Into the Spider-Verse was something special. It's bold.
Oh yeah, the different graphics, like the way it looked, it was like original, like that art style. I don't think we've ever saw that. I could be wrong. I've never seen the art style other than through the Spider-Verse. I've never seen that type of art style.
Drawn comic book aesthetic, seamlessly blended with CGI, was already being described as revolutionary. But behind the scenes, things weren't nearly as smooth. See, Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman, the writers behind Miles Morales' cinematic debut, clearly wrote an incredible story. But less than a year before release, they decided to change the story and overhaul the entire third act, completely rewrite.
And then when they do something like that, the animation, people that make the animations, they gotta switch it up. If I guess that's where he's going with this.
Writing and restructuring the movie's climax. That's an honestly insane decision that threw the entire production into chaos, forcing animators and artists to completely scramble under extreme pressure. Still, Into the Spider-Verse not only became one of Sony's highest grossing films, it won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
So no harm done, right? Well, not quite. That last-minute, high-pressure creative process, yeah, it set a precedent that would have major consequences down the line. Now, here's where things get interesting. Even before Into the Spider-Verse hit theaters, Sony was so confident in its potential that they had already started early work on a sequel. The film's insane success in 2018 only cemented that decision, and by November 2019, Across the Spider-Verse was officially announced. The studio wasted no time hyping it up, but then, silence. Months passed, then an entire year. By 2020, updates on the sequel were scarce, aside from one major change. Sony pushed the release date from April 2022 to October 2022. It wasn't until early 2021, a whole year and a half after the sequel was announced, that producer Chris Miller revealed they were still working on the script. That might not seem unusual, after all, some scripts take years to refine, but for a movie that was already announced and dated, That was a pretty
And they
big
didn't work
red
on the
flag.
script?
As expected, the October
That's weird.
2022 deadline became impossible to meet. And in December 2021, Sony delayed the movie again, this time by an entire goddamn year,
Yeah.
pushing it all the way.
But now, it was worth it. Because, bro, that sequel did its duty. It was just... I don't mind them taking their time with this. It's just, we're hearing a lot of rumors and speculation of it not coming out. Like, it's a lot going on. So it's
to
just like,
June
I would like a
2023.
confirmation
But that wasn't
we're
the
still
only
working on
surprise
it.
we got. They also announced that Across the Spider-Verse would now be the first of a two-part story, with Beyond the Spider-Verse being developed alongside it. Keep that in mind as you watch the rest of this video. Originally, Across the Spider-Verse was supposed to be roughly the same size as its predecessor, but that's not what happened. Instead, it ballooned into an enormous production with the largest crew of any animated film ever at the time, nearly 1,000 artists. That's honestly nuts. But as we'll soon see, ambition without structure comes at a pretty steep cost. Despite having such a massive crew, production on Across the Spider-Verse was anything but smooth. Reports started to surface that over 100 artists had left the project due to extreme overwork, caused in large part by Phil Lord's management style. When 10% of your team quits, there's clearly something wrong. Animators were being asked to make last-minute changes to fully rendered sequences, something that is usually unheard of in the animation industry at that stage of production. Normally, major rewrites and changes happen early, during the storyboarding process, but on Across the Spider-Verse, sequences were being torn apart and redone long after they should have been locked. Animators described the working conditions as absolutely brutal, with some reporting 11-hour work days, 7 days a week for over a year to compensate for the lost time. The core issue stemmed from Phil Lord being ridiculously indecisive creatively and having utmost control. He would even have final say against the directors. If Phil has a note that contradicts their notes, his note takes precedence. While his creative oversight obviously played a key role in shaping Across the Spider-Verse into an incredible movie, it also led to an exhausting and chaotic production process. Any singular change...
That's kind of like Jordan. I just be thinking about it. It's kind of like Jordan yelling at his teammates. They got 6 rings. It's kind of like Joe Jackson being so hard with the Jackson 5. Michael Jackson 5 was successful. Michael Jackson was a name will never be forgotten. Listen, say what you want. Yeah, it was harsh conditions. It was brutal. And yes, I have empathy. And I know how difficult it is. Nigga, it's difficult for me to just edit. Like, I know it's insane for them to be putting all this together. But we can't sit here and act like this movie wasn't goated. So was it worth it? Leave that up to God. I think it was worth it.
Change in the story often involved animation, final layout, cloth and hair effects, which have to repeatedly be redone anytime there's an animation change, the department that passes over the characters with ink lines and does all this crazy stuff like explosions, lighting and compositing, editing. These are a lot of artists affected by one change. Imagine an endless stream of them. It's not a surprise that morale was incredibly low during production, with a lot of people reassessing if this was even something they wanted to be a part of. On top of the demanding hours, many workers faced financial and job insecurity. Sony Pictures Imageworks, the studio handling the animation, is not a union studio, meaning artists had very little bargaining power and low pay. With the animators being underpaid, it forced many of them to rely on overtime pay just to make ends meet. Living in an expensive city like Vancouver made matters worse, with some struggling to cover costs despite working excessive hours. For international artists, the situation was even scarier. Many were working off visas.
Bro, I'm really surprised. Like, bro, the animation is the key part of the... Bro, it's literally next to the script. It's key part of the movie. Why weren't they getting paid a lot? That's like, I don't know if that's unheard of. Do animators and editors, do they get paid a lot?
and saw SPI as their best chance to stay in Canada, making it difficult to push back against the grueling conditions or leave the project. They were forced to endure long hours, low pay, and constant pressure just to maintain job security. A Vulture report also detailed how some animators left because they physically couldn't sustain the workload, while others pushed through months of intense crunch just to meet shifting creative demands. One artist described the experience as death by 1,000 paper cuts, with changes constantly undoing progress. Another stated that despite loving the final film, they would never work on a project with Phil Lord again. Across the Spider-Verse may have been a stunning achievement, but behind the scenes, it came at a steep human cost.
Okay,
that
so they
being
just,
said,
got to get another director. What, you said direct? What was it? Who was he? The manager or something? They got to get another one of those, and we good. That's it.
Across the Spider-Verse finally hit theaters in
Get another one of those, still bull script, and we good.
June of 2023.
Don't Sony own the script anyway?
5 years after the first movie. It was a massive success, earning over $690 million at the box office. But behind the scenes, the production nightmare had left its mark. Many animators had walked away, unwilling to endure another grueling process for the sequel. And then there was Beyond the Spider-Verse, a film that was supposedly being worked on simultaneously.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest, bro, that movie gotta drop. Come on, man, give him more pay, do something. That movie has to come out. You can't just leave that on the table. You left Spider-Man 4 on the table with Tobey Maguire. You can't leave something like this on the table. We need a clean trilogy.
Except it wasn't.
Don't rush. Take your time. Just saying. Like, a lot of people want this to happen.
Not only was Beyond the Spider-Verse nowhere near completion when Across the Spider-Verse released, but the Vulture report suggests that production hadn't even started. It's no surprise that we've recently heard actors say voice work hasn't even begun in 2025. That's a huge red flag. In animation, voice recording usually happens before or during early animation, as it helps animators match character movements and emotions to the performances. The fact that they haven't started means one thing. The movie isn't just delayed, it's nowhere close to being finished. To make matters worse,
I'm glad we getting GTA 6 this year, boy. Whew.
Sony initially blamed the delays on the Hollywood strikes of 2023. While it's true that the SAG-AFTRA strike halted a lot of productions, nearly every Sony movie that was delayed due to the strikes has since been released or has a confirmed release date. Beyond the Spider-Verse is the only exception. Not only does it not have a release date, it doesn't even have a confirmed release year. That makes absolutely no sense unless there are far bigger issues happening behind the scenes. And then there's the script. Rumors have circulated that Beyond the Spider-Verse's script was completely rewritten after Across the Spider-Verse released, though both composer Daniel Pemberton and producer Chris Miller have denied this. But even if it wasn't fully rewritten, we know that Into the Spider-Verse went through massive rewrites just a year before release, so it really wouldn't be surprising or far-fetched if Beyond the Spider-Verse is facing similar last-minute overhauls. This is clearly how Phil Lord works.
I'll be honest, bro. Phil wildin' though. Phil doing his thing, man.
In early 2024, we got another bizarre update. Composer David hinted at a 2025 release, teasing that one of his songs would be in the movie. But then Karen Sony said in August 2024 that voice recording was starting in a few months. Fast forward to December and January, and like I said, we know recording hasn't even begun. How is it possible that months later they're still in the same place? And that someone that's part of the movie thought it would be released in 2025, even though Sony has confirmed that's not going to happen. This could all potentially mean animation hasn't even started yet, and if we compare this to past Spider-Verse films, Beyond the Spider-Verse is years away from completion. I mean, honestly, with the lack of updates and the fact that voice recording is only just starting, I really cannot see this movie being released before 2027 or 2028. So what is actually going on here? The dark truth is that Phil Lord's control over these movies, while instrumental to their success, has also created a grueling work environment that pushes animators to their absolute breaking point. Artists are tired of being overworked, and Lord's frequent changes and revisions is likely the real reason Beyond the Spider-Verse is taking so goddamn long. Especially with how imperative it is to get this last movie absolutely perfect. Also, with the underpaid, overworked nature of this project, it's it's likely that a lot of people were turned off from working on it, which doesn't help in speeding up production. The fact that Sony is keeping everything so secretive only raises more questions. There hasn't been a single teaser, a single frame of footage, nothing.
52 million.
Compare that to Across the Spider-Verse, which had a teaser released a full year and a half before it hit theaters. This lack of transparency makes me feel like Sony themselves don't even know when the movie might be ready. The situation only gets more worrying when you look at how this might impact the rest of the industry. The Spider-Verse movies have been hailed as some of the most innovative animation films ever made, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in Western animation. But this level of artistry comes at a massive cost, one that's increasingly difficult to justify.
They gotta make their other movies better when they do animations.
Burning out faster than ever. These are the brutal realities of animation production, especially at major studios like Sony, where extreme overwork is usually treated as the norm. Sony's inability to provide a structured production pipeline, combined with Lord's insane creative approach, has created a work environment that is not even remotely sustainable. If this pattern continues, it raises serious questions about the future of animation as a whole. Will studios keep pushing for bigger, more ambitious projects at the expense of their workers, or will we finally see
I gotta watch Arcane, and I gotta watch something else that like has really good
a shift in the industry where proper planning and fair labor practices take precedence over last-minute perfectionism? Does it even make sense to try to replicate this incredible animation style if it might take a studio 6, 7, 8, 9 years to produce it if they're not overworking animators? It starts to become hard to envision investing so much into these types of projects while keeping working conditions healthy. The animation industry is at a crossroads, and the outcome of Beyond the Spider-Verse's production could set a precedent for years to come. And what about the Spider-Verse franchise itself? The longer this delay drags on, the more momentum the series risks losing. Thankfully, us Spider-Verse fans are extremely patient, and I think I could speak for many of us when I
Yeah, this movie was so good that they could be patient. They don't have to like rush. It's not good. The hype is not gonna die, bro. Especially when they do release like a little teaser, a little trailer. Yeah, maybe this year, next year, or the year before that, motherfuckers just gonna go back and watch the old two movies. They were really good. I'll go watch the old two joints. I don't mind. They were really good.
say I'd rather a polished, perfected product in 10 years than something rushed in 5. But who knows? The excitement that Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse generated could slowly fade away, leaving Beyond the Spider-Verse as an afterthought. The truth is, Sony finds itself in an impossible situation. Either they rush Beyond the Spider-Verse to meet expectations and risk another grueling, overworked production, or they take their time, but at the cost of the audience losing interest. I'm personally hoping that all of these delays and lack of updates simply means the studio is giving the team all the time it needs to get this right, with zero pressure from external deadlines. If that's the case, and this movie turns out perfect, then this could be an incredible example for other animation studios to point to in terms of how to run production. That being said, it is clear that Beyond the Spider-Verse is in a state of complete uncertainty. Whether it's due to rewrites, animators pushing back against unfair conditions, or just complete mismanagement, one thing is clear. We are a long way from seeing Miles Morales return to the big screen. And unless Sony changes the way it approaches these productions, this might not be the last time we see an animated Sony movie stuck in limbo. The Spider-Verse films were meant to revolutionize animation, but if they're not careful, they might just become a cautionary tale.
That was a good video. Shout out Miguel Ojeda. That's funny, his first name Miguel. Yeah, man. Take all the time you need. I just want the movie to be good. If it takes long to drop, so be it. It is what it is. Better them to take their time and drop a masterpiece as a end of a trilogy. Because I know we're gonna get Miles Morales in live action pretty soon. Probably not too far. Than them just rushing and then dropping a trash trilogy, third movie. Yeah, take their time, man. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think they should rush or give time? I mean, just the obvious answer is give time. And if it's rushed, then like what deadline are they gonna give for a rush? I mean, Maybe drop 2027. That sounds like a pretty good deadline. We'll be in 2025. Man, GTA gonna drop at the end of the year. It's gonna take up everybody's time. That's about a good year of content, game. Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, I just feel like, listen, this is all I'm saying, man. I know a lot of people don't play video games, but GTA 6 is gonna spread beyond video games. You know what I'm saying? That's just what I feel like. I just really feel like that. And I feel like it's going to give a lot of studios and a lot of movie companies time to relax, because that game spans beyond just a video game. Everybody knows GTA. And I keep talking about GTA just off the simple fact, for some reason, I'm just even more excited about it. I don't know why. You tell me why.
You actually finished my video. I don't know if you watched a lot or a little, but I appreciate you. I'm going to see you on the next video. I'm out!